All right, let's just check the pulse here. It is today, Thursday, January 22nd, 2026. And if you're listening and you've got a portfolio with any XRP in it, you might be feeling a little nauseous.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. It's definitely a gut check moment.
I mean, we're looking at the charts this morning, and it is just struggling to hold that $1.88 line, down about 13% recently.
And the mood on social media, it's bleak. The retail panic is it's palpable right now.
But then, and this is where it gets so confusing,
Yeah.
you open the headlines coming out of Davos, out of the World Economic Forum.
Right.
And it's not just a different mood. It feels like a completely different reality.
It's just the Davos disconnect, really. It's like the price chart has completely decoupled from what the company is doing.
Exactly. You've got Ripple's CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, basically standing on a mountain telling everyone he's very bullish and predicting an all-time high.
While the retail trader is staring at red candles, Ripple is executing this very specific, very expensive strategy on the ground in Switzerland. They are not acting like a company whose asset is down.
And that's our mission for this deep dive.
Right.
We have to bridge that gap. We need to figure out why the Davos elite narrative is so wildly different from the market reality.
And we have to talk about that massive $8 price prediction from Standard Chartered.
Which sounds, frankly, insane right now. And the data point that scares me the most, this ghost town metric.
It is a tangled web today. You've got politics, you have regulatory drama, and just a fundamental disagreement on what gives crypto value.
So let's start with the flex.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is a flex.
Ah.
Usually we talk about crypto companies at conferences and it's, booth, maybe a side party. Ripple is doing something very different.
Very different. They have essentially bought a seat at the geopolitical grown-ups table.
What do you mean by that?
Ripple is an official sponsor of the USA House on the Davos Promenade. Now, you have to understand what the USA House is. This isn't just some branded tent.
It's not the crypto corner?
No. The U.S. State Department treats this as the country's official headquarters during the forum.
Wait, so this is where the actual government officials are based?
Exactly. This is where the administration's delegation is. It's where the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, is holding meetings. So when a world leader walks down the promenade, they see the American flag, the Secret Service, and then on the sponsor wall, next to Microsoft and Pfizer, they see Ripple.
Wow. That has to be a wildly expensive piece of real estate.
Reports say up to $1 million, but they're not buying ads to get you to download an app. They're buying association.
Subliminal messaging.
It's a subliminal message to every central banker who walks by that says, we are infrastructure. We are safe. We are part of the establishment now.
It feels like they're trying to say, we've graduated.
And the World Economic Forum itself seems to be validating that. If you look at the WEF's own documents for this event,
Oh, this is interesting.
they're now listing the XRP ledger, the XRPL, as a viable option for real-time settlement.
Okay, but viable compared to what?
Well, look who they list it with. They put it right alongside JPM coin.
JPM coin, as in JP Morgan's coin.
Exactly. The gold standard for bank-owned blockchain. So the WEF is basically saying XRPL is a legit alternative to the old correspondent banking system.
So you can buy a sponsorship on the wall, but you can't buy your way into their technical papers unless they actually think your tech works.
That's the key. So diplomatically, they're winning Davos. But back in the U.S., the regulatory situation is, well, messy is a nice way to put it.
Yeah, Garlinghouse is citing these wins, but I'm hearing about some serious infighting.
There's always drama. He's pointing to the Genius Act as a major win for stablecoins, which is fair. But the real prize, the big one, is the Clarity Act.
The market structure bill, right. Yeah. The one that's supposed to finally tell everyone what's security and what isn't.
That's the one. And Garlinghouse is in Davos saying, we are as close as we have ever been. He sounds super confident. But just a few days ago, on January 15th, the bill hit a massive speed bump. And it came from inside the house, so to speak.
You're talking about the Coinbase situation.
I am. Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, pulled his support for the Clarity Act just 24 hours before the markup.
Which postponed the whole thing. I have to stop you there because that makes no sense. Ripple and Coinbase are supposed to be allies in this fight against the SEC. Why would Armstrong torpedo the bill?
It wasn't ego. It's a really specific legal trap they think they spotted.
Okay, get into the weeds for us.
The Clarity Act is designed to hand power from the SEC to the CFTC, which everyone wants.
Right, the friendlier regulator.
Generally, yeah. But Coinbase's legal team apparently found a problem. They got worried that the bill's definition of a digital commodity was too loose.
And what would that mean?
It means they were afraid it could create a loophole that would let regulators apply existing securities laws to exchanges even more strictly than they do now.
So Armstrong saw it not as a life raft, but as a cage.
Precisely. He decided no bill is better than a flawed bill. But for Ripple, as an issuer of a token, the bill looked great. It gave them clarity.
So their business models clashed. Ripple needs the asset defined. Coinbase needs the exchange protected.
And that's why Garlinghouse was so taken aback. It's kind of embarrassing to have this public knife fight right when you're trying to impress the world's finance ministers.
Speaking of awkward,
Yeah.
let's talk about the All-In event.
Ah.
Because this was pure corporate theater.
The live podcast taping.
Yes. So yesterday, Garlinghouse does a live recording of the All-In podcast at the USA House. The co-host is Jason Calacanis, who famously despises XRP.
Despises is probably the right word. Yeah, he's called it the antithesis of crypto's decentralized ethos.
He called it a centrally controlled security. I think he even said it was going to zero at one point.
And he suggested you should need a sophisticated investor test just to buy it, to protect people from grifters.
Brutal. So why sit on stage with him? Why give your biggest critic that platform?
It's a power move. If you can sit down with your biggest critic on a global stage and hold your own, you project immense confidence.
You're basically saying, we're not afraid of that narrative anymore.
Exactly. It shifts the conversation from, is this a scam, to, okay, we disagree, but let's talk tech.
And that's a perfect transition because they did announce some actual tech, this zero-knowledge privacy infrastructure. It sounds a little cloak and dagger.
It sounds like spycraft, doesn't it? But really, it's the boring plumbing that banks have been begging for.
So what does it do?
Well, think about a normal blockchain. Everything is public. If you're a bank, you hate that. You don't want your competition seeing your payroll data or your supply chain payments.
You want the blockchain efficiency with Swiss bank secrecy.
Exactly. So this ZK stack lets an institution prove a transaction is valid without revealing the amounts or identities to the public. It's all about compliance with things like GDPR in Europe.
It's the missing piece for those big institutions to even consider using it.
It is. And speaking of adoption, it looks like Japan is where it's actually happening.
Right. Japan has always been the stronghold.
Yoshitaka Kitao, the chairman of SBI Holdings, just confirmed that Japanese banks will start using XRP for live cross-border payments this year. Not a pilot, not a test live money on the rails.
And I saw a Bank of Japan representatives at Davos, too.
Which a lot of people think is highly coordinated. You have the tech provider, the commercial partner, and the central bank all in the same orbit. It suggests Japan could be the first big domino.
Garlinghouse also mentioned Binance might be coming back to the U.S. in 2026.
He did. Just another little signal that the regulatory ice might be thawing.
Okay, so we have the prestige, the politics, the tech, the adoption in Japan. Now for the math, because this is where the headache comes back. Standard Chartered is predicting XRP could hit $8.
$8 by the end of 2026 and potentially $12.50 by 2028.
We're sitting under $2. That is a massive multiple. What is our model?
It all comes down to a supply shock. First, the legal overhang from the SEC is gone. But the real driver is the ETFs.
The spot XRP ETFs that launched last November.
Right. They've sucked up about $1.25 billion worth of XRP.
So a lot of coins are being taken off the market.
A huge amount. Exchange balances are down 45% year over year. So nearly half the XRP that was sitting on exchanges ready to be sold is now locked up in cold storage or ETFs.
So their logic is supply is crashing, ETF demand is steady, so price has to go up.
That's the bull case. It's a squeeze.
Okay, that makes sense. But now you have to be the villain. We have to talk about the ghost town metric because this data point is just staggering.
It is the elephant in the room, and it is a very, very dangerous data point for Ripple.
Hit us with it.
Okay. Back in March of 2025, the XRP ledger had about 600,000 daily active addresses, a healthy, bustling network.
Okay,
By late December 2025, that number had dropped to 38,500.
Whoa, hold on. 600,000 down to 38,000.
It's a 90% drop in less than a year.
That's not a drop, that's a collapse.
It is.
If this was any other company, if Uber lost 90% of its daily active users, the stock would be zero. How can you predict an $8 price when the user base has literally evaporated? The math doesn't math.
And that's the paradox, isn't it? It forces us to ask what this crypto asset actually is. Is it a utility token that needs users to have value? Or is it becoming more like gold, a financial asset that just sits in a vault?
So the risk is that XRP is transitioning from a utility network to just a financial asset. The ETFs are buying it to hold it, not to use it.
That seems to be what's happening. The ETFs don't care about daily active users, they just care about price. But it raises that fundamental question. If nobody's using the bridge, why is the toll booth worth billions?
It feels like we are in this really dangerous limbo. The institutions are buying the asset, but the retail users, the ones who kept this thing alive for years, have packed up and left.
And you see that reflected in the technicals right now. There's a falling wedge pattern forming.
Which is technically bullish, right? It's supposed to break upward.
Usually, yeah. Traders are looking for a breakout to maybe $2.23. And it's big, but that support around 185 is fragile. If it breaks lower, we see 181 very fast.
And what's happening next week?
February 1st is the monthly escrow unlock, 1 billion XRP. They usually lock most of it back up, but it always adds volatility. And in a market this jittery, it can spook people.
So let's try to pull this all together. It's a massive tug of war. On one side, you've got the Davos elites, the USA House sponsorship, Japanese banks going live, and a huge bank like Standard Chartered calling for a 300% gain.
And the ETF money is real. That inflow is backing it up.
Right. But on the other side, you have a network that's become a ghost town, down 90% in activity. You've got infighting with Coinbase, and a price that's just struggling to stay afloat.
It's the ultimate case study in institutional versus retail. For years, the retail XRP army was the engine. Now it feels like Ripple is trying to swap out that engine for an institutional one while the car is still moving.
And the big question is, can the car keep moving during the swap?
If the Japanese banks and the ETFs ramp up fast enough to replace that lost retail volume, the price could soar. But if they don't, you're holding a coin that nobody's using.
That is the gamble. So here's a final thought for you to chew on. Brad Garlinghouse keeps calling XRP a neutral bridge for the world's money. It's a vision of a global superhighway. But if the daily active users have dropped by 90%, is Ripple building a bridge to nowhere? Or is this just the quiet construction phase? Are they clearing the bridge of all the retail traffic to make room for the really heavy trucks, the banks that are just starting to rev their engines in Japan?
If those trucks finally arrive, $8 might just be the beginning. If they don't, it's a very expensive bridge.
A fascinating high-stakes gamble. We will be watching those charts and the Davos headlines very closely. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Always a pleasure.